Well, it's really great to be here. You know, I've been in this kind of computers and education for quite a while. In fact, one of my teachers was Seymour Papert, who some of you may know because he created a logo environment. And at that time, I was a student at MIT with Marvin Minsky and Seymour, you know, and he was creating this open-ended learning environment. I mean, he had this turtle and turtle geometry, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. And later also, I became very heavily involved with distance education in the 80s. I mean, the web was kind of already there, but not quite, you know, but we could use email and we could use file transfer, and we had to use satellites for transmitting video. But I actually got involved in it deeply in making courses of all sorts. And of course, the big problem at that time was the, well, delivery platforms and having ways to deliver this kind of software, deliver content materials, videos, and things like that. So then I started to, we had a series of workshops which led to these books. And you know, these workshops were particularly about the crisis in education that we were seeing and the possibilities that broadband could give for this. But also already this tension with how can we use ideas from both from programmed instruction, which was kind of the most popular way to use computers in education, to more open-ended learning environments like the logo environment, in which you could have resources to, for you know, the learners have resources to explore, but it's not like a kind of Skinnerian, you know, environment of reinforcement learning, so to speak. Okay, but then I'm sure all of you, you're all young enough to experience this incredible explosion that started to happen in 2001 with the MOOCs. And no, 2011, I'm sorry. And so MOOCs, in a sense, solved this problem of delivery. Okay, because now everyone could have access. It was easy to distribute video materials, to have some sort of interaction, you know, to have interactive courses and so on. And so I know that there have been talks about MOOCs and all of you know it, but just to be sure that we're all on the same line, you know, if you look at MOOCs today, you see indeed short video lectures, much shorter than they would usually be in a class, let's say. You see exercises that are being given, and then there's extra materials that come online. So this is one property. The second one is that MOOCs were very quickly, you know, such a success. I mean, the MOOCs by Sebastian Thrun and others from the AI groups in Stanford, that it became a really big problem for grading and feedback. So the idea was, again, to kind of do peer-to-peer grading and let the other learners grade actually their colleagues, and also to have feedback being organized in this kind of peer-to-peer fashion. The third characteristic, which is that these MOOCs are often free of charge. And so there's basically no entry barriers. You know, before, when you wanted to go at Stanford, you had to pass these exams, and it was difficult to get in. And then suddenly these courses were also made available, and obviously 100,000 people or you know, 200,000 people started on these courses. And then they included immediately from the beginning also the social media in order to generate this kind of community of learners, well, community, let's say group of learners, massive group of learners, and also to organize this kind of peer-to-peer grading and feedback. And so as you all know, I mean, these MOOCs kind of came like a big tsunami over the world of, you know, computer education or computer-supported education. And it opened the eyes of many people of the tremendous, that we were going to a new era where it would be possible to use all the results that have been going on in research and development for a long time. You know, that all the different threads now could actually be applied on a big scale. Now, there also quite quickly the problems with MOOCs started to appear. I mean, everybody is very enthusiastic to start, but there's a very high dropout rate. So the big problem number one is to keep students motivated to follow it. You know, it's very easy to register for a MOOC, but of course, if you know, you start with the real work, then it's not so, it's a bit less fun. The second problem is the assessment and the grading, because obviously if you have peer-to-peer grading, I mean, this is not going to have the same quality as if an expert in the field or the teacher is going to do the grading. And also the idea, I mean, people who started these first MOOCs, they were, I think, very optimistic about computer-based assessments. And so, of course, in some fields like mathematics, where the answer is very precise, you could indeed organize that. But if you go to, I don't know, other fields of learning, well, it's a very different matter. So this is a problem. And then, well, these MOOCs kind of came out of the American educational system. But there's a big problem, although they claimed we will educate the whole world, you know, in 20 years there will only be 5 universities left in the United States. All these kinds of silly Silicon Valley style hype talk. But the problem is how to integrate the local context in learning. And local context is very important, partly for this motivation, but also for, you know, for the relevance of the course material. And then finally, there's the question of a business model. It all started out with venture capital, but of course, at some point, you know, the question is how you can create a stable organizational forms, either with the open universities in Europe or with other organizations. Okay, so this is the thing. And then what we did, this is actually 4 years ago. This is just when it started. We decided to do a project to explore how we could solve some of these problems. Now, we is a group of people, a group of people that have been working in artificial intelligence. And this is not so bizarre, because people in artificial intelligence have traditionally, while they're interested in learning, they're interested in knowledge. And one of the big application areas of artificial intelligence is indeed knowledge and how it can be transmitted. And so if you look at existing MOOCs, this is sort of one little diagram. You know, you see actually, of course, a large variety, right? Well, I should also say that we focused on music as the learning domain. And the reason for this is that there's a vast interest in learning about music. It has some of the same quality as mathematics, you know, because you have to be precise and you have to learn certain things. But it's also creative, and it's something that you cannot really push in a nice programmed instruction kind of learning setting. So we focused on music, and actually there's a vast number of things going on internet for music. Some of them are like these games, you know. This is a game for learning about the tonal steps, so to learn 2 notes up or 2 notes down, this kind of thing. And there's more sophisticated things, like this is a MOOC at Coursera that is about musical composition, and I actually followed the course just to learn what it was all about and how effective MOOCs were going to be for music. So this is more the traditional style of MOOCs. Now, in this project, which is called Praise and has a number of partners, and this is a book actually that just came out yesterday. I have it here. I'm very proud and happy. So there's a project that we did to see how we could use AI techniques for MOOCs. And immediately, the first thing is that right now, already in the music field, you have lots of tools for sharing, for social sharing. So this is SoundCloud, you know, where you can have music files, and you can annotate these music files, and you can, you know, share it with friends and send it around. So the first thing that we did is to build an environment for social learning for music. And maybe I'll show a little video clip if this works out here. Yes. Okay. So this is Mark D'Inverno is...
Hi, I'm Mark D'Inverno. I'm the Pro Warden for Research and Enterprise here at Goldsmiths. Goldsmiths with a fantastic tradition of producing alumni that have done fantastic things in the creative and cultural industries. And I'm here because I want to talk about a project which I've been leading here with my colleague, Matthew.
Hi, yeah, so my name's Matthew Yee King, and I'm the lead architect for the Music Circle system, which is what we're going to show you today.
And at heart, this project is about trying to encourage, building a system to try and encourage people to go online and give feedback and receive feedback on works in progress, music particularly, but across any kind of other creative media. And I think the easiest thing to do is we just show you very simply what happens. I'm at home, I'm playing the piano, I'm composing a song, or I'm writing a piece of music, or I'm writing film music, or I'm practicing for a performance. And I want to know how to get better, and the way to get better is to get feedback from other people. So here I go. I press play, press record, I should say. I press upload, and then I'm going to hand back to Matthew to say what happens next. So I've recorded this piece. What happens now, Matt?
Right, so the recording's been uploaded automatically to the Music Circle system, and you can now go in there and start listening to it and placing comments along the recording.
Fantastic.
And it's great for self-reflection, so you can sort of use it as a notepad of your recording. But you can also then take that recording and share it with a community of other people, so that they can also comment or reply to your comments. So
okay.
if you hit that share button up the top there,
yep,
you'll see that you can share it. It's shared with the Friendly Piano Players community, and I'm actually a member of that community, so I can go in and I can post my own comments. So you see, once my comment appears, I'll pop up down there.
Fine.
And you can click on my comment.
Okay, so you posted video here, Matthew, not text, is that right?
That's right. So we found that with music, people want to not just reply with text, but also to reply with a video of someone else playing that piece, or maybe their own example of how to play it. And so we built that functionality in.
So we've got a really natural system here for working, uploading media, sharing with the community, giving quite detailed feedback in text and video and sound. How are we confident that it actually works?
Well, we developed it through a user-centered design process, which means we actually brought in the users of the system, which is the students and the tutors who are going to actually use it.
Yeah.
And they contributed to the design. They said which things didn't work and which things worked, and added things and so on. And also we've tried it with thousands of users. Firstly with online students studying our...
Okay, well, this goes on, but I propose to go back to the talk. So you see, this was the foundation of the project, right? A way to share music files, and of course the great thing in this project is everybody was a musician, so we had some people doing jazz improvisation, others worked on more classical composition techniques and counterpoint and things like that. So the real question now is, how could we use AI? We put that on top of this particular system. And we focused on two things. One of them is motivation. How could we create smaller groups by finding ways, you know, if there are lots of people that are linking into this system and they're giving comments, and they are, we see actually that certain groups are kind of self-organizing. You know, sometimes people talk about SPOCs as small personal online, courses, I think, okay, as opposed to MOOCs, which are massive and open. So this is more small groups that kind of cluster around certain interests. And so we built all sorts of tools that are actually the tools that are used in social media, you know, but they are based on AI techniques. For example, on kind of monitoring reputation and making reputation visible, and linking also people based on their interests, on what they're looking at, but also on doing what's called sentiment analysis, which is that we use natural language processing to actually process the comments that are being written, and in order to kind of find pieces that would receive a lot of positive comments, you know, and try to increase the number of people that were interested in that. So these are techniques, known AI techniques, that could be adapted quite easily, actually, once you have this group of people that are sharing these music files and these video uploads. Now, another thing that we did is to seek to sustain a personalized experience, and also to make sure that there's this excitement going on, you know, this flow. I will come back to that in a minute. Now, in any case, it was done by contextualizing more, by specializing the material that was presented, by selecting exercises based on that particular student, because in the most MOOCs now, you know, it's a kind of standard fit-all situation, right? You all get the same exercises in timing and things like that. And another way to increase the motivation is to give personalized feedback, which we did by introducing student modeling, which is a technique coming from intelligent tutoring systems. I'll talk about that too. And then the second area in which we worked is in improving assessment and grading. So to find ways to get much more sophisticated corrections or feedback, and you know, to improve the peer-to-peer assessment, for example, by this reputation tracking system, so that, you know, if grading was being done, that those people that were good in this kind of thing or knowledgeable, there was a way to actually increase their participation and also increase this way the quality of the grading of the group. So I'm going to give a few examples of this. And this is the first example. This is from for learning jazz improvisation. And you know, jazz people, they take a score, it's called the lead sheet, and this is Giant Steps by John Coltrane. And so the learner can pick from a database of lead sheets, can pick one, or one gets suggested by the system as a good way to, you know, as the next one to work on, right? Now, this lead sheet has the melody, and it has also the basic chord structure. So what then happened was that the player can just play the instrument, like here the saxophone, you know, she would normally do, and a recording was made of that. And the accompaniment, the bass and the drums, and depending on the instrument, but like piano or something, was generated automatically in response to the playing of the learner. Okay, so this is already a first form. It's not like a fixed recording without a particular instrument, but the tempo and the rhythm and so on was actually already adapted to the player, and this is possible to do these days. So the whole thing is recorded, and then it's also now state-of-the-art that from the sound waves you can extract actually the individual playing and turn that into a score. And you can also do audio analysis. So this is the basis for improving the grading and the assessment. And so, I'm sorry, okay. So we used a broad set of audio features, and one example of this, I don't know whether this also contains yes, is the in-scale rate. So this is to see in how far the solo player, when doing an improvisation, is staying within a particular chord. So here you have a D minor chord, and you can see that all notes are within that chord, whereas here there's some notes which are not in the chord. And this is one of the things that a jazz improviser has to learn, is to learn which notes to play within a particular chord. And then there can be some variation, but basically you have to stay more or less within that chord structure. Another thing, this is all state-of-the-art. It's rather amazing, I would say, because this happens in real time, is to rate how good the musician is playing on the beat. And again, you can kind of deviate a little bit particularly when you play jazz, but this is another thing that can be detected, that can be shown, that can be used in grading, or that can be shared. Another element is to a measure of the continuity in the playing. And this is a jazz solo by John McLaughlin. Okay. Now you see that although there are lots of notes here, I mean, this is viewed as very continuous, where you could have also going up and down, in the score. And so all these things, there's even harmonic analysis being done on the score, trying to determine determining the harmonic structure. And then this is the notes actually that the learner was playing as a solo, and so afterwards she sees the solo that was being played and which is analyzed for harmonics. So you see the state of the art. I mean, it's, I think, amazing what we can do today in real time analysis of the audio files that are generated. So it's a very natural situation. So this is one example where we could improve tremendously the assessment and the feedback, particularly the quality of the feedback. Now here is another example, and which we used to create more excitement in the learning phase and more personalization. So I guess most of you are familiar with these two ideas, namely the idea of flow, which is introduced by psychologist Csikszentmihalyi. And basically the idea of flow is that you kind of, if the challenge is too easy for your skill level, you get in a kind of state of boredom. Whereas if the challenge is too high, you get in this regime of anxiety, and the ideal flow experience is trying to balance between these two. And so this is one idea. And the other idea is the idea of Vygotsky, again, already very old idea, that the learner has a comfort zone as a region where it can reach with the help of the tutor, and then a region out, an area which is out of reach. So we applied that to various things, like including selecting the next lead sheet that the player would try, but also in another application built on top of the music circle, which was for learning counterpoint, which is part of compositional technique. And then basically a model of the student was being made in order to find out in how far the student mastered detection of, let's say, problems in a score and ways to deal with that. And then suggesting exercises and suggesting other ways to improve the student. So instead of just giving the fixed series of exercises, there's monitoring of the skill level of the student, introducing things which are just a little bit higher so that, the student stays in this flow experience. And then if there's problems detected, suggesting repairs and then having this kind of loop. Well, we did several other things, and we also tried to see in how far the human recommendations compared with those that were produced by the system. And, you know, the reasonably good possibilities here. I mean, imagine this is for a MOOC with 10,000 or 100,000 people, right? And even confusion when whether recommendations were given by a human tutor or by a system. Okay, so I have to conclude now because I want to throw this thing also to somebody. And I think this was very brief, but AI techniques can help to add quality to the MOOC's experience in order to increase personalization, foster stronger motivation, improve assessment, and also to find these small learning communities and then strengthen them, even though there's lots of students that are following these. But I have to admit that if you want to do all this kind of thing, you know, there's no thing that you can download, you know, and then plug it into the MOOC that you're building. It's always, these techniques can be used, but they require significant investment if you're making your MOOC. But I think if you see opportunities and time and, you know, energy, then I think this is a really interesting way to go.